Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? All throughout the NFL season and the football season, we have the great pleasure to visit with Sean Salisbury, and he just can't quit us, or I just can't quit him. Even though our weekly chats are done, it just keeps bringing up relevant convos. And Sean Payton interviewed on Monday with the Houston Texans. Of course, Sean Salisbury is host of the Sean Salisbury Show on Sports Talk 790 there in Houston every weekday morning. So to get some insight on the Texans, I called our guy, and he was willing to come back with us for another go-around. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, buddy. Always. I appreciate you having me. You know that.
Of course, man. We appreciate the time. Okay, does it make sense, Sean Payton to the Texans?
It makes perfect sense here if you could pull it off. Hell, they're waiting for a guy that's not a bridge guy to the next bridge guy to the next bridge guy. They're waiting for a guy who can work, shoulder to shoulder with, I'm assuming, Nick Caserio, because it doesn't appear that they're going to, Sean's going to bring in his guy here if he comes here, unless they work it where he's involved in the front office. But Caserio's here, and I think that's, it's not just the questions that the Texans are going to ask Sean. It's all the questions Sean has for the Texans, and do they check the boxes? I would imagine, Matty, that money's not going to be the issue.
Okay.
Because this is going to, I can't fathom. I'd ask somebody pretty close to the organization, will they open up? I mean, will they go cheap? Try to go cheap on a guy who's the golden ticket as far as the coaching free agency, even though he's not a free agent, a guy you want. And he didn't think that they would. You're talking in the. I'm assuming it's going to be in the 7 to 8 year that he's going to ask for over $10 million, $12 million a year. I would imagine. Maybe I'm even on the small side of it because he now gets to dictate pretty much what he'd like to do, and people are chasing him, and that's a good thing when you have that kind of option. So, I think at first all of us thought, well, Sean would be great, but that's a pipe dream because, well, they've got a young team, even though some good young players, but they don't have the type of quarterback right now that is a franchise changer, and it's been a dysfunctional organization, and the trust factor, all those things and he's not going to get his own GM. Well, maybe they work it out, and he had some nice things to say about both Nick Caserio and the family here that owns the team. So, here it would be great. People would love. Now there are some people who are like, well, wait, you should have won more Super Bowls in New Orleans, and I get that argument. I do. You're going after a guy who had all Drew Brees and loaded, and you want him, and they've missed out on having more than one, but he's still a prize get out here. He's the guy to get, and somebody else may turn out and be like Sean Payton, but there's going to be criticism and compliments all over the place. But he's a guy knows how to call offense. He commands respect. He'll put people in the stands. There'll be a new excitement. I don't think money paying him will be a problem. The question is can he and Nick Caserio get away from the Patriot way or apply what they love from the Patriot way and do the Sean Payton way, and that Nick will give him leeway to say, okay, I'm taking this job, and I know you're going to make the decision, but I'd like to know what's going into the cupboard, meaning Sean Payton. And when it comes to the quarterback, you got to let me go get him, the guy that I love, and whoever that is. It may be Will Levis, or maybe somebody on the market. So I think if that's the case, you're in the hunt. Arizona seems to be eliminated because they hired a GM before they even talked to Sean about this stuff, so that may be out. Denver seems to loom fairly large because they got a great roster, and I'm sure that they think he can fix Russ Wilson. So I think the thing here, though, is young players, a lot of money, a lot of commitment, and they've got a lot of draft assets and capital, too, even if you wanted to move them to go get something that Sean likes. But I don't know many people that don't want him here. The question is, do the Texans have the front office panache and the guts to go give him what he wants and don't let him leave the building once you've had your second interview when you're not zooming that you've got him in front of you before somebody else can trump you with a better offer.
Quick follow-up on the money, Sean. Florio reported last week, believe what you will, but just naming the source, that Payton would command between $20 and $25 million per year.
I saw. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Matty.
No, please.
Maybe he is in a position, and you know this, and I'm not saying Sean that you're desperate to go get Sean Payton. I'm not saying that. I've been a fan of his, and I love when he's on my show, and I love talking football and laughing with him. And I think he's a really brilliant guy. So I don't know. Florio's pretty dialed in, but I'm sitting here trying to picture $25 million that you'd have to give up, probably a second, maybe a mid-first, which Mickey's going to. I mean, if you're Mickey Loomis, I'm not giving him away. He is a prize to get. Think about this now. You're not getting him for 4 years. You and I both know that. Mm-hmm. So think about that. Let's say $25 million a year for 8. You are now paying a coach that's coming into a team. Now you hope that you get the Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence thing with your quarterback, right? Where you turn it around in a year and you're in the playoffs and it's growing. But think about $200 million for a coach coming to an organization. I'm just talking about here, not just anywhere else. $200 million is basically anywhere but $200 million in hopes that a 22-year-old and a 24-year-old, 25-year-old kids and turn into grown adults and they can get him what he wants. Because for that, you're expecting a quick change turnaround, right? That's what you're expecting. So listen, you're worth what you can negotiate. Hell, we can go around a league, baseball, football, basketball, and say, what? That guy's making what? And he got guaranteed what? Yet you're Sean Payton, and if you think, and I always believe that you're worth what you can negotiate, and if you believe like first quarterback take and those type of guys, the Peyton Mannings, those guys are program changers that are worth their money. If you find a program-changing coach who oversees it all, isn't he worth it? That would be, I mean, you're basically damn near doubling the next guy, which is crazy. But you know what? Maybe we're at the point that the desperation for these franchises is, I got to have him, and you do it. And if you do it, and that's what it takes to get him, it's good to be Sean Payton.
He's on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. What quarterback options are there in Houston?
As far as options for them to get, you mean? Matt?
Yeah, when you all on your show, you're talking about it. Who's playing quarterback for the Texans next year for the next 5 years? What does that conversation look like?
And we had it this morning, and we've had it every day since the season ended. Probably 90% of the season trying to figure out what's next. But when you start to see things kind of like, okay, the Jameses and the Andy Daltons and the Jimmy Garoppolos may be available. Hell, the way Brock Purdy's playing is Trey Lance. I mean, you can't. Purdy's a better player than he is right now.
Yeah.
So is Trey Lance expendable? Is Aaron Rodgers going to move now and you just commit to Jordan Love, or is keep Jordan Love, or is it time to move him? And Aaron says, I want to play 3 more years. Is Brady worth a 2-year deal here with Sean? I'm just throwing names out there. And they're saying, okay, then you get, is Will Levis your guy? You were a 2-point conversion away and a stop against the Colts from controlling the draft. Now you are in danger of being trumped by somebody who jumps up like the Colts to move up to get their guy, and then you're settling. I don't even know if settling, but you get the second quarterback, and they'll all tell you that was their first choice. So all those things, Matty, they're out there. The realistic is, and it could fierce, honest to God, it could be you keep Davis Mills, you draft a quarterback second, and they compete like when Savage and Watson were here, and he beat him out, and you go from there. I mean, Mills is a solid player. He's not a franchise changer. So I don't know if you get one of those guys. Is Derek Carr going to make for his money? Going to add 6 wins to this team? The answer is no. So I depending on if you want, and if Sean says I'd love Derek Carr, I love his accuracy, I could turn him into Drew Brees, and we're going to go with great. Go pay him, go get him. So there's a lot of options. The question is, are they franchise changing options? Can you get a veteran that holds it down? The ego won't get in the way, because if you draft a quarterback first or second, he's playing by year 2 unless you're playing behind a Josh Allen or one of those guys, but you ain't drafting the guy then. So there'll be plenty of options. The question is, are they options that make you say, damn right, or are they options that say there's 8 of these guys that are kind of interchangeable? That's the question you're going to have to ask yourself.
Hey, Sean, before you go, I also want to talk about compensation for the Saints. What would Houston be willing to part with?
That I don't know. I know what I said. If it comes down to this, and you've run, if you're Houston and you say, we'll offer you a second this year and a conditional one, first of all, you're not giving the first or the second pick away. You're just not.
Right.
You just can't. You absolutely can't. Now, they've got assets, right? So with the Watson thing and where they finished, and so you say, okay, you're sitting at 2 and 12. I think you do everything you can to battle them. And if you're going to give them a number one, make it later. They need these next couple of years to get something going. If the Saints were willing to be accepted, 2 years down the road or what have you, maybe that guy. But I'm going in saying a second and a conditional. And here's the odd thing. They maybe get $25 million a year for the coach. They're offering a second. Is he worth the first? But if it came down to you love him, not like him. If you're the Texans or somebody and you friggin' love Sean Payton, I love Sean Payton, and you love him and you say, okay, 10 years from now, what will have affected the franchise more? The 12th pick of the draft, an edge rusher, a wide receiver, or Sean Payton?
Yeah.
And if your answer is yes, we love him, Payton, then you guess what you know what you do? You give up your 12th pick for him. If that's the last final. But that's not one where you jump out and do it. You got to start to feel what the market bears and say, oh, they haven't got anything better than a second rounder. We're going to say, okay, we'll give him the second rounder and then a conditional third round that if we make it to the playoffs the next 2 years, he gets the second rounder 2 years from now. But I'm not going to jump in with a 12th pick. I'm going to make him work for it. But I always said it, quarterback and coach, if you love him and you want him, then you go get him. And tell me right now, the second pick may be different. The 12th pick of the draft a decade from now or 8 years from now, the course of the contract, who will have impacted the franchise more? If it is the pick, you don't trade for Sean Payton, you go sign Mike Kafka and move on. One of those kind of guys. If it is, and you say he's definitely going to impact our franchise more, and the truth is he should, then you say, here's the 12th pick and we'll move on. You'll get a lot of backlash from fans that don't quite get it, that need the assets. But in order to have assets, you got a guy who can coach and teach them. And I always go, it's player first, coach second. If that player is Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, that program changer. Other than that, you got to go find yourself a Belichick, a Sean Payton, a Mike Tomlin type of coach. You just do.
He's on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. Good enough to join us here for a couple of minutes, Sean Salisbury. Man, we always appreciate the time and the insight. Be well. We'll visit again down the line.
Anytime, brother. I'm here for you whenever. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.